Hello everyone, welcome to the Cinema Analysis channel. I am Juzo. This channel will explore the hidden truths of films that are not usually revealed. Today I would like to talk about the history of hostage films. There are many masterpieces of hostage films. I would like to talk about the history of the trend of this genre. The works I'm talking about this time are mainly those that show the protagonist fighting against the villains who take many hostages. This time it's not about kidnapping. I will talk about the content of the different works, and as for the hostage taking factor, it is common to all the works. As this video is also meant to introduce you to many excellent works, I try not to touch on important parts like the end of the story as much as possible. So let's get started. Have you ever been taken hostage? Probably almost no one have been taken. What is the reason for taking hostages? Because they have something to do, even if it means taking hostages. The culprit who takes someone as hostage has some urgent reason. It's impossible for a film that depicts this to not be interesting. What do you imagine when you hear the hostage films? I think the first would be Peter Pan in 1924. The story was first performed as a stage play in 1904, and it has been filmed many times since then. Captain Hook, the leader of the pirates, takes the lost boys and Wendy hostage to defeat Peter Pan. Peter Pan confronts the pirates. As the part where the pirates take the hostages is only the climax. This is not really a hostage film. But I think I have to mention Peter Pan because I think it influenced the classic film that was made later. I will talk about that later. The Doomsday Flight, made in 1966. Although this was a low-budget television film, it is considered to be an important work that marks the beginning of hostage films. There is a threat that a bomb has been placed on a passenger plane in flight. The bomb is said to explode if the plane descends below 4,000 feet. Circumstances make it impossible to get the perpetrator to defuse the bomb. How can the passengers be saved? If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you watch it as soon as possible without searching. The passengers are saved in a surprising way. This work was made before Airport in 1970. As far as I know, this work is the beginning of what you call vehicle-based thrillers or transport thrillers. A vehicle with a lot of people in it becomes unstoppable for some reason and there is panic. In these works, vehicles become unstoppable mainly through accidents. In contrast, in the Doomsday Flight, the problem was artificially created. This is not only a vehicle-based thriller, but also a hostage film. The Taking of Pelham 123, made in 1974. It became clear that there were terrorists on the moving subway. They declared that they will kill the hostages if the ransom is not paid. This is also a good piece of vehicle-based thriller. The film Juggernaut was made in the same year, 1974. The bomb was planted on a luxury cruise liner. A ransom of £500,000 were demanded. You have to declare which of the two coats to cut, the red one or the blue one. Which one do you cut? This thrilling description has been quoted in many works. The description in the film, The Matrix, of choosing the red pill or the blue pill may have been influenced by this film. The beginning of hostage films could be described as vehicle-based thrillers. There are also hostage films in which the perpetrators occupy a location and take hostages. The one you shouldn't forget is 1975's Dark Day Afternoon. It was based on a real-life incident. The robbers could not escape and were surrounded by the police. They had no choice but to take hostages and barricade themselves inside. The reason they robbed the bank was to get money for a sex change operation for the partner of one of the perpetrators. The mass media, which knew about it, hailed them as heroes. Nothing went well and the situation gets worse. The tension rises as the story moves towards its climax. The protagonist didn't plan to take hostages at the beginning. This is a unique point. CONFLAGRATION, made in 1975. The terrorists seized an oil tanker and took the crew hostage. They demanded that the Japanese government destroy the oil base at Kagoshima. This is a pretty terrifying threat. If their demand was not accepted, they said they would destroy the oil base in Tokyo. Even if their demand was accepted, the oil base in Kagoshima, the southernmost city in the Japanese mainland, had to be destroyed. The Japanese government doesn't want to accept such a request, so they try to pretend to comply with their request. Using a special method, they try to make the perpetrators think that they had exploded the oil base in Kagoshima. What is this method? But although the budget of the film is unknown, there is no doubt that this is a big budget film, considering the cast, crew, and the content of the film. And to the best of my knowledge, it will be the first big budget entertainment hostage film to feature a specific location. North Sea Hijack, made in 1979. The terrorists invade the North Sea oil field drilling base and set the explosives, demanding a ransom from the British government. The villains occupy a certain place and take the people there hostage and make a demand to the government. This may be one of the earliest films in the world to show how the villains occupy a place and take hostages according to their plan. In this film, not only the people are taken hostage, but also the drilling base is used as a pawn. The government has to defeat the culprits without destroying the drilling base. The difficulty for the government increases and the tension of the story rises. Die Hard, made in 1988. This film is a masterpiece that will go down in history and should be called the icon of hostage films. The protagonist is a policeman. He visits the company where his estranged wife works. There's a terrorist attack, and the hero has to fight them. Before Die Hard, in many action films, the very strong heroes, like Superman, defeated one enemy after another. There are films like the Rambo series or Commando. Martin Riggs, the hero of Lethal Weapon, has the weakness of suicidal thoughts, but he is an ex-Green Beret. In contrast, John McClane, the hero of Die Hard, is an ordinary police detective. Although he is comparatively efficient, he is portrayed as an ordinary man. His wife earns more than her husband, which may be one of the reasons why their relationship is not desirable, and he had to fight barefoot against terrorists. This is the story of a hero fighting with weakness. The terrorists demand the release of their comrades, but their real aim was to rob the expensive bonds in the building's safe. I first mentioned Peter Pan as an example. That is because I think Peter Pan influenced Die Hard. John McClane, the hero of Die Hard, is Peter Pan. Hans Gruber, the leader of the terrorists, is Captain Hook. The terrorists are the pirates. The hero's wife, Holly McClane, who claims to be Holly Gennaro, is Wendy. The hostages in the Nakatomi building are the Lost Boys. How did Peter Pan kill the pirates one after the other? He killed one of the pirates first, and he impersonated a rooster, cock-a-doodle-doo. Captain Hook ordered one of his men to check the situation. He was also killed, and there was another cock-a-doodle-doo. Each time this happened, Captain Hook's anger and fear increased. Quite a few people were thrilled to read this story when they were children. What about John McClane? First, he gets into a fight with one of the terrorists and kills him. He then sends his body down the lift. He then kills the other terrorists one by one when the leader isn't around, each time using a stolen walkie-talkie to tell the leader that he's killed them and threatens him. I think this part was probably influenced by Peter Pan. Wendy, in Peter Pan, acts as an emotional support for the Lost Boys. Holly McClane tries to reassure the hostages as a senior member of the company. Who is Tinkerbell? Argyle, the limo driver, and Harry Ellis and Richard Thornburg. Argyle, who always seems happy, is very Tinkerbell. But Tinkerbell also had his or her problems. For example, Tinkerbell was jealous of Wendy and tried to let her die. Those who represent part of Tinkerbell's problem behavior are Ellis and Thornburg. Ellis, Holly's comrade, was in love with her because he wanted to get her. He gave John's name and the job to the terrorists. Thornburg, the TV reporter, let them know that John is Holly's husband. Both of them caused trouble for her. John and Hans confronted at the end. Hans, who almost falling off the building, holds onto Holly's wrist. John then removes the watch from her wrist. Hans falls to the ground and dies. How did Captain Hook die? Captain Hook's wrist was cut off earlier by Peter Pan. A crocodile ate the wrist. Because it was so tasty, the crocodile kept chasing Hook. Hook let the crocodile eat the clock, which could tell when the crocodile was approaching by the sound it made. Hook fell into the sea and was eaten by the crocodile and died. Both Hans and Hook die with the same motif. In Die Hard 2, the terrorists have taken over the airport. The hero fights against the villains who occupy a certain place and take hostages. You could say that Die Hard established this style. Sea Hijack was also an excellent work, but there do not seem to be any later works that were influenced by the film. After the success of Die Hard, many hostage films were made. Under Siege in 1982 was called Die Hard on a Battleship. The crew of the battleship are taken hostage and their weapons and ammunition are stolen. The villains demand the release of their comrades, but this is only a pretense. In Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, the train was hijacked. Cliffhanger was called Die Hard on a Mountain. The villains let the hero's friend accompany their search for the lost money. Because they're supposed to kill him after they find the money, he is the same as the hostage. Later, the hero's girlfriend also taken hostage. Many hostage films have been made that are also big thrillers. Speed, made in 1994, was called Die Hard on a Bus. The bomb placed on the bus will explode when the bus slows down to below 50 miles per hour. The hostage situation is not just on the bus. At the beginning of the film, the bomb was placed on the lift. The protagonist desperately tried to save the people in the lift. Later, the bus was hijacked. After it was solved, the heroine was tied up with the bomb and became a hostage. Air Force One, made in 1997, was called Die Hard on a Plane. The hero is the President of the United States. He fights to save his family and government officials who have been taken hostage. Hostage films can be divided into two main types: those in which bombs are placed on vehicles and those in which a particular place is occupied. In both of these films, the people taken hostage are limited, such as the passengers or the people who happen to be there. But there is one work that has changed the concept of the hostage. Do you know the Japanese film Whiteout? The original story was published in 1995. Of course, the story was made under the influence of many works. In the story, the terrorists have taken over the dam that stores water and are holding hostages there. The hostages are the dam crew and the girlfriend of the hero's best friend, who is already dead, and the perpetrators have threatened to blow up the dam if their demands are not met. This means that countless people living downstream will become victims. The people the terrorists are really taking hostage are the countless people outside the scene of the crime. This story may be the first to create this dual structure. Hostage films continue to make progress. I would like to introduce you two works at the same time. Both were made in 1996. Executive Decision and The Rock. In Executive Decision, a passenger plane is hijacked. The terrorists demand the release of their leader. However, their real aim was to blow up the plane over U.S. territory, loaded with poison gas. The special forces and the hero who accompanied them managed to board the passenger plane using a certain special aircraft. But there was a lot of trouble waiting for them. The terrorism of the hijacked airliner. 5 years later, it happened in the real world. Many people would have remembered this film at the time. In The Rock, the terrorists occupy Alcatraz Island. The hostages are tourists. The terrorists are the mutinous special forces of the US. They have many comrades who couldn't get enough honor and compensation for taking part in the secret operations. The terrorists want them to give them money. They threaten to launch the rocket loaded with VX poison gas from the island if their demand was not met. Both Executive Decision and The Rock created the new style of hostage movies. The criminals take hostages and threaten the government, but the real hostages are the people outside the crime scene. In the worst case, the lives of millions of innocent citizens will be lost. To prevent this, the authorities are forced to make the decision to sacrifice the hostages at the scene and eliminate the terrorists. The most desirable thing is not to let anyone become a victim, but what to do if this is not possible. A train is traveling on the track. The track ahead is divided in two. If you go straight, you will run over 5 people. If you take a different path, you will only have to kill one person. Which way will you take? This is known as the trolley problem, introduced by the philosopher Philippa Foot in 1967. This thought experiment in moral philosophy has continued. Michael Sanders' justice course at Harvard is perhaps the most famous in recent times. In the world of action films, the trolley problem has been incorporated into films such as Spider-Man made in 2002 or The Dark Knight made in 2008. By introducing this moral dilemma, the entertainment became more exciting and deeper. As these films were made almost simultaneously, it seems unlikely that one could have inspired the other. Should the minority be sacrificed to save the majority? The films in which this choice is forced already existed in the early days of panic films. Let me introduce you to two of them. The Bullet Train, made in 1975, and the Cassandra Crossing, made in 1976. In the Bullet Train, the bomb was placed on the bullet train. This bomb was supposed to explode when the bullet train slowed down below 80 kilometers per hour. This idea is based on the Doomsday Flight. Speed, mentioned above, is based on this bullet train. At the end of the story, the bomb on the bullet train has been defused. But there may be another bomb. In the worst case, it could explode in a populated area. The Japanese government ordered the bullet train to stop in the countryside. The passengers could become victims. The people of the railway company resisted. Let's see how it ends. The setting of the Cassandra Crossing is also a train. The terrorist infected with the bacteria that is the bioweapon boarded the train. The bacteria could infect other passengers. The passengers are trapped on the train and become hostages. It is known that the villain has taken them hostage, but the government has isolated them to prevent the spread of the bacteria, and the train goes to the Cassandra Crossing, the dilapidated bridge. The government is trying to make the bridge collapse, killing the passengers and wiping out everything. Let's see what happens to the passengers. It is also about the government forced to make a choice, whether to sacrifice the minority in order to save the majority. Although both works are the stories in which the government is forced to make a decision concerning a serious ethic. The villains did not make the situation directly. That's why they should be distinguished from executive decision or The Rock. Die Hard had completed the style of hostage films, and The Rock or executive decision had created further evolved style. It is the style that adopted the trolley problem. When the work is created by the style, it has to be quite a large scale, and there's no point if the work couldn't transcend the past works. This style is a full course dinner, in other words. It will be difficult to cook much more luxurious full course. It must be the reason why the works with this style has not been made after that. Even the hostage films continue to be made. The structure of them becomes simple, and they seem to be the ones in which the release of the hostage is not the main purpose. In the 1998 film, The Negotiator, the perpetrator who barricades himself in the hostage-taking is surprisingly the negotiator whose role is to free the hostages. The protagonist is wrongly accused. In order to prove his innocence, he takes the person who seems to be the real culprit hostage and barricades himself inside. Negotiations begin with the other professional negotiator. The negotiator takes the hostage and barricades himself inside. Excellent but simple idea. Although it is a hostage film, whether the protagonist's innocence is proved or not is the important issue rather than the hostages will be released safely. Inside Man, made in 2006. In the opening monologue, a man describes the perfect bank robbery. The robbers enter the bank, take hostages and barricade themselves inside. The robbers make the hostages wear the same mask, and the difference between the robbers and the hostages becomes unknown. Even what was stolen is unknown. What is the real motive of the robbers? This work focuses on the other question rather than on how to free the hostages. The origin of hostage films seems to be the story of villains who plant explosives on a vehicle and demand a ransom. It is a style of both vehicle-based thriller and also hostage film. In this style, the villains had better not board the same vehicle. Once they get in, the important thing is how to escape. There are works that they don't try to escape, like Executive Decision. And there are also stories where the criminals occupy a certain place and demand a ransom. Again, how the perpetrators escape is an important point. In Die Hard, the expression of this part is perfect. I have introduced you to a lot of hostage films. They are all excellent films. I suggest you to watch any of them. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.